Okay. तो शुरू करते हैं chapter 4. We did till verse 15 last week. We're beginning from verse 16, where Krishna is sharing further deeper divine knowledge with Arjuna. So verse 16 says, Kim karma kim akarma iti kavyah api atra mohita tat te karma parvakshyami vat gyatva mokshase ashubhat. कर्म क्या है और अकर्म क्या है, इसे निश्चित करने में बुद्धिमान व्यक्ति भी मोहग्रस्त हो जाते हैं। अतएव मैं तुमको बताऊंगा कि कर्म क्या है, जिसे जानकर तुम सभी अशुभ से मुक्त हो सकोगे। So Krishna tells Arjuna that even the wise and intelligent people get confused in the difference between the karma or akarma. So let me explain this to you. कर्मणा हि अपि बोधव्यम बोधव्यम च विकर्मणः अकर्मणः च बोधव्यम गहना कर्मणः गति। कर्म की बारीकियों को समझना अत्यंत कठिन है, अतः मनुष्य को चाहिए कि वह यह ठीक से जाने कि कर्म क्या है, विकर्म क्या और अकर्म क्या है। Wow, this is going to be interesting. So now taking us in the depths of the difference between karma, vikarma and akarma. कर्मणि अकर्म वह पश्येत अकर्मणि च कर्म वह सह बुद्धिमानः मनुष्येषु स युक्तः कृतस्त्र कर्म कृतः। जो मनुष्य कर्म में अकर्म और अकर्म में कर्म देखता है, वह सभी मनुष्यों में बुद्धिमान है और सब प्रकार के कर्मों में प्रवृत्त रहकर भी दिव्य स्थिति में रहता है। So this makes me think a little bit about Taoism as well, because action and non-action is something which is explained in Tao. I think there is a specific philosophy called Wu Wei, which means action in non-action, like you're not making any effort, but still you're doing what you are supposed to do. And in these verses, what Krishna is also saying is anybody who sees an action in non-action and non-action in action, that person is wise. And that person, although is doing or undertaking all the action, but still he stays in a very detached and divine state and doesn't get indulged. Yes, Manmeet, you are definitely wise.
Laughing when I'm doing nothing and looking at the sky. I think this is so useful. Such a huge karam I'm doing.
Why not? Appreciating, observing, and maybe some thought is getting formed or some creativity is getting formed in the mind at that point of time. यस्य सर्वे समारंभाः काम संकल्प वर्जिताः ज्ञान अग्नि दुग्ध कर्मणम तम आहु पंडितम बुधाः। जिस व्यक्ति का प्रत्येक प्रयास इंद्रिय तृप्ति की कामना से रहित होता है, उसे पूर्ण ज्ञानी समझा जाता है। उसे ही साधु पुरुष ऐसा करता कहते हैं, जिसे पूर्ण ज्ञान की अग्नि से कर्म फलों को भस्मात कर दिया है। So a person whose all efforts are devoid of the desire or the attachment towards indulging into your sensory pleasures, that person is considered to be absolutely wise or sadhu. And I'm just thinking, um, when every action is devoid of the sensory pleasures, to me, it feels like it doesn't say that you move away from sensory pleasures, but it says that that is not the motivation for you to do any action. Like, if as an outcome of undertaking some particular action, you get some sensory pleasure, that's like a part and parcel of undertaking that action, but that pleasure is not the reason or the cause for you undertaking that particular action. Yeah. What
Woman,
would
are
you
you
say,
able
Manmeet?
to see any such actions in your life which you are undertaking not for a sensory pleasure? You may get that later on out of it. That's a different thing.
Yeah, I think there are quite a lot of things which are done. One reason that comes to me is that I no longer crave for, anything specific to eat most of the times. Most of the times it is like, okay, so whatever is available, I'll eat that. Although there are certain things that I really relish and really enjoy, but if they're not there, I'm not bothered. It's not like, oh my God, I have to eat it, otherwise something would be missing or something would be lacking. I think at a small level we can say that, because even that is one action. Others could
Which
be, I think, so I can't see much of like that I'm consciously doing those kind of actions, but it feels like when you have reached that stage where our actions are devoid of the sensory pleasure attachment, or you know moving away from something which is not pleasurable specifically to us, a sense of contentment or a sense of peace sort of settles in, because if you get
there is no
something,
desire, right?
yeah, there's no
Desire
desire
is
as such.
the culprit for all the restlessness and unhappiness. So this is being devoid of desire.
Yeah, it's
How
like,
about writing, Komal? You write. When you said this, the first thing that came into my mind was that when I start writing, I'm not really looking for pleasure. I just write it. It is a different thing that on some days it will leave me deeply satisfied or empty me out. Does it make sense to you?
yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not written for, oh, I have to share it with people and then see how people respond to it, but it's something that is coming out of you and you're just writing it, putting it down. I remember this one bhajan from Mirabai, and its words sort of signify the same thing very, very clearly. It says, करना फकीरी फिर क्या दिलगीरी, सदा मगन में रहना जी, कोई दिन हाथी ना कोई दिन घोड़ा, कोई दिन पैदल चलना जी.
Oh, beautiful.
It's like if you have Hathi Ghoda, go on Hathi Ghoda. If you don't have, then you go walking barefoot. It's okay. Like take the life as it comes, sort of thing. त्यक्त्वा कर्म फल आसंगम नित्य तृप्तः निराश्रयः कर्मणि अभिप्रवृत्तः अपि न एव किंचित करोति सः। अपने कर्म फलों की सारी आसक्ति को त्याग कर सदैव संतुष्ट तथा स्वतंत्र रहकर वह सभी प्रकार के कार्यों में व्यस्त रहकर भी कोई सकाम कर्म नहीं करता। I love the word, and that is sort of highlighting to me in this verse, swatantra, like free. Like when you have sort of let go of all attachments to the outcome of your actions, you're always really very content and free. Like you have the freedom, you're swatantra, you're not bound to anybody or by anything. And despite being very busy with your actions, you are not doing a sakam karma, which means you're not doing any action which is binding on you, which is sort of trapping you in the world. Nirashih yat chitta atma त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रह शारीरम केवलम कर्म कुर्वन् न आपनोति किल विषम। ऐसा ज्ञानी पुरुष पूर्ण रूप से संयमित मन तथा बुद्धि से कार्य करता है, अपनी संपत्ति के सारे स्वामित्व को त्याग देता है और केवल शरीर निर्वाह के लिए कर्म करता है। इस तरह कार्य करता हुआ वह पाप रूपी फलों से प्रभावित नहीं होता है। संयमित मन और बुद्धि, बैलेंस्ड mind and heart, mind and intellect, so to say. He says अपनी संपत्ति के सारे स्वामित्व को त्याग देता है. That means though you own something, but you do not have that sense of ownership towards anything. And it's such a beautiful distinction. Having something, but do not have the sense of ownership. Oh, that I own this or I have this. And it says that every action is bound only because you have a body. So you're bound to, just by being in this body, you're bound to certain actions, and that's how you do it. And so no pa punya impacts you when you are operating or when you are acting through this. So I think somewhere here a sort of a distinction is also appearing for me in karma, akarma, and vikarma. So karma is action, vikarma is moving away from action, like not doing an action deliberately or being lazy or saying, okay, I do not need to do any action. So I think somewhere probably there's also a distinction that no, you do need to do the action because by being in this body, by being in this world, doing your rightful action is important for you. So if somebody goes to that extent and say that, oh, I am free from everything, I do not need to do any action, I think that will be more of a vikarma, like you are um, going on a completely opposite direction. Whereas akarma is non action, like not being indulged in the outcome of the action. Let's see what it says next. यदिच्छः लाभसन्तुष्ट द्वन्द्व अतीतः विमित्सरः संसिद्धो असिद्धो च कृत्वा अपि न निबध्यते। जो स्वतः होने वाले लाभ से संतुष्ट रहता है, जो द्वंद्व से मुक्त है और ईर्ष्या नहीं करता, वो सफलता तथा असफलता दोनों में स्थिर रहता है। वह कर्म करता हुआ भी कभी बंधता नहीं। So somebody who's satisfied with the profit that happens by itself, like organically, whatever growth or whatever profit or whatever benefit comes to you, you stay satisfied with that. You're free from any sort of a dilemmas. You do not fall into envy or jealousy with other people. You are same whether you receive success or failure. This is how when you continue to do your rightful action in this sense, you are never bound by this world. You're not never bound by anything. गत संगस्य मुक्तस्य ज्ञान अवस्थित चेतसः यज्ञाय आचरतः कर्म समग्रम प्रविलीयते। जो पुरुष प्रकृति के गुणों के प्रति अनासक्त है, जो दिव्य ज्ञान में पूर्णतया स्थित है, उसके सारे कर्म ब्रह्म में लीन हो जाते हैं। So again here he brings the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. And he says not just action. Now he's taking it deeper because our action also originates from from the combination of these three gunas. He says the one who is even detached to these three gunas as well, or three tendencies, that person is still or have achieved this divine wisdom, and all his actions are towards moksha, or the ultimate freedom. Brahma arpanam, Brahma havi, Brahma agno, Brahmana, hutam Brahma evalen, gantavya Brahma कर्म समाधिना। जो व्यक्ति कृष्ण भावना अमृत में पूर्णतया लीन रहता है, उसे अपने आध्यात्मिक कर्मों के योगदान के कारण अवश्य ही भगवत धाम की प्राप्ति होती है, क्योंकि उसमें हवन आध्यात्मिक होता है और हवि भी आध्यात्मिक होती है। So in the previous chapter, where Krishna took the metaphor of a havan or a fire ritual to our actions, that how when we do all our actions considering that they are like devoted to the Brahma or to the God or to universe, then our actions become really, really pure. And so that's what he says, that all our actions become more spiritual. There's adhyatmic, which is like more spiritual, and they are less religious and they are more spiritual when we are bound by those bhavs or those feelings of surrender or immersion in this divine knowledge. Devam eva apare yagyam yoginah paryupasate Brahma agno apare yagyam yagyena eva उपजुंगति। कुछ योगी विभिन्न प्रकार के यज्ञों द्वारा देवताओं की भली भांति पूजा करते हैं और कुछ पर ब्रह्म रूपी अग्नि में आहुति डालते हैं. So it says the same thing, like there are some people who perform all these rituals of Havan uh, to satisfy the different gods and goddesses, or the manifestation of different gods and goddesses to seek some worldly benefits. But then there are some whose actions are like this, I don't know, what do we call ahuti? Like an offering. So whose actions are like a sacrifice or an offering into to the ultimate divine, to the God. Shotra adini indriyani अन्य संयम अग्निषु जुह्यति शब्द आदीन विषयान अन्य इंद्रिय अग्निषु जुह्यति. इनमें से कुछ श्रवण आदि क्रियाओं द्वारा तथा इंद्रियों को मन की नियंत्रण रूपी अग्नि में स्वाह कर देते हैं, तो दूसरे लोग इंद्रिय विषयों को इंद्रियों की अग्नि में स्वाह कर देते हैं. So here he sort of distinguishes between the brahmacharis and the sansaris or the grahasths, where he again make this distinction that some people would even surrender their sensations or the actions through different sensations, like to hear or to see, in the fire of a control. So he's again using these metaphors. So basically what he's saying is that there are those who are called brahmacharis who sort of sacrifice or surrender all their senses to this discipline or to this control, and they've said it like a fire. They've used the metaphor of fire, whereas there are the grahasts who surrender all of their actions or the outcomes to their senses. So you either surrender it to all of your senses, all your actions, or you surrender it to the control of it. I don't know if I'm able to explain these very well. It's a little difficult to find meaning for or words, proper words. सर्वाणि इंद्रिय कर्माणि प्राण कर्माणि च अपरे आत्म संयम योग अग्नो जुह्यति ज्ञान दीपिते. दूसरे जो मन तथा इंद्रियों को वश में करके आत्म साक्षात्कार करना चाहते हैं, संपूर्ण इंद्रियों तथा प्राण वायु के कार्यों को संयमित मन रूपी अग्नि में आहुति कर देते हैं. Okay, so now this explains it better. So in the previous verse, he's given a distinction between the brahmacharis and grahasths, like who's really a grahasth and who's a brahmachari. So what a grahasth does is, or somebody who's living their life uh, in the worldly ways, so all their senses are attuned to the sensory pleasures. The brahmacharis are those whose senses are attuned to control and discipline. Whereas then there are those who direct or attune all their senses to knowing themselves, to for this Atma Sakshat or knowing the self. And that is where all their senses are surrendered to, or they are all aligned to knowing more and more to self. And here he also brings an idea of yoga, which is given by Patanjali in Yoga Sutra, where how through the Ashtanga yoga of Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi, how all our senses, sensory perceptions, our breath, our action, our efforts are sort of attributed more and more towards knowing about ourselves, knowing the reality of the self.
Komal,
Dravya
can
yag,
you
yeah,
repeat what is this stage called? So, Grahast, you said where it's complete surrender to the sensory pleasure.
yeah.
And the where we
Brahmachari,
renounce, brahmacharya is where we renounce it, like we try to control it.
control it. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what is this Atma Sakshatkar stage called?
So Atma Sakshatkar stage is for those who align or direct all their senses and sensory perceptions or sensory outcomes, expressions to the knowledge of self.
Yeah, I guess you and me are at that state. But what is it called? Is there a name to it?
Uh, no, there is no
Okay.
specific name given to it. Yeah,
Okay, I thought like Grahast and Brahmacharya, maybe there's a name to it.
no.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe there's something ahead. Let's see. Dravya yagyah, tapah yagyah, yoga yagyah, तथा अपरे स्वाध्यायः ज्ञानयज्ञः च यतयः संशित व्रतः। कठोर व्रत अंगीकार करके कुछ लोग अपनी संपत्ति का त्याग करके, कुछ कठिन तपस्या द्वारा, कुछ अष्टांग योग पद्धति के अभ्यास द्वारा अथवा दिव्य ज्ञान में उन्नति करने के लिए वेदों के अध्ययन द्वारा प्रबुद्ध बनते हैं। वाओ, प्रबुद्ध. Now, how do I translate this word? So he's basically explaining how some people um, do you have any idea what would be prabuddha in English? Because I sort of understand this in Hindi, but I don't know what is its equivalent in English. But basically, in this verse, Krishna is speaking about like how different people would follow different paths to achieve that knowledge, to achieve that wisdom. He says like some people would uh, go for really hard training of like vrats, or you know, or some austere measures they will take. Some people will renounce their property or their wealth. Some would put themselves, okay, Prabuddha is enlightened. Okay, thank you, Google. And Manmeet. Yeah, and some do really very strong tap or tapasya. Some people follow this Ashtanga yoga of Yoga Paddhati, and some may follow the path of divine knowledge and wisdom. And that's how, and they would read Vedas and Upanishads, and through their knowledge, they try to find the enlightenment. Apane juhyati pranam, prane apanam tatha, apare pran apan, गति रुद्धवः प्राणायाम परायण अपरिणयत ahar prana praneshu juhyati. There's a lot of pran in this verse. अन्य लोग भी हैं जो समाधि में रहने के लिए श्वास को रोके रहते हैं, which is called as pranayam, the practice of controlling your breath to stay in samadhi or stay in deep meditation. वे अपान में प्राण को और प्राण में अपान को रोकने का अभ्यास करते हैं और अंत में प्राण अपान को रोककर समाधि में रहते हैं. So, pran and apan are two kind of what to say, vayu, air, which control different functions of our body. Pran is what we is considered to be the in breath. Apan is the out breath. So in this verse, they are saying like how with the use of pranayam and how manipulating the in breath and the out breath, these people try to be in this deep meditative state. There are certain other yogis who would eat less, who would control their food, and that's how they try to go into this deep meditative state. Sarve api ete yagya vidyah yagya shakti kalmasha yagya shishtah amrit bhuja yanti brahma sanatana. ये सभी यज्ञ करने वाले यज्ञों का अर्थ जानने के कारण पाप कर्मों से मुक्त हो जाते हैं और यज्ञों के फल स्वरूप के फल रूपी अमृत को चखकर परम दिव्य आकाश की ओर बढ़ते जाते हैं. न अयम लोको अस्ति अवगस्य कुतः अन्य कुरु सत्तम. हे कुरुक्षेत्र श्रेष्ठ, जब यज्ञ के बिना मनुष्य इस लोक में या इस जीवन में ही सुखपूर्वक नहीं रह सकता, तो फिर अगले जन्म में कैसे रह सकेगा. So here again, this metaphor which is being used and how it is explained that no matter at what stage or phase somebody is, and no matter what path somebody follows, but everybody in their own way attempts to undertake some action to eventually reach that state of enlightenment. And he says that this is without this divine action or without surrendering all of your actions, one cannot achieve a state of satisfaction, a state of contentment within this world or within this life. Then how would somebody, you know, be good in their next life? So this somewhere also brings in this call it belief, because it is a belief, of course, and a part of Hinduism is that one has multiple lives, many lives. The soul goes through this journey of taking birth as a different character, as a different person in each life. And one of the aspect of this belief is that everybody thinks quite seriously about their own actions, because they would want to undertake such actions which not just help them in this world or this life, but also sort of benefit for the next life. A lot of people would say that, oh, I'm doing good deeds so that my next life is also better. So they're not just thinking of being contented in this life, but also thinking of next life. So Krishna is explaining that how all of these different paths sort of lead us to having a contented life right now. And without a good awareness of what we are doing, how we are doing, why we are doing, it's really difficult to think of the next life or what it will be in the next life. एवं बहुविधः यज्ञः वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्म जान विद्धि तान सर्वाम एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे. ये विभिन्न प्रकार के यज्ञ वेद सम्मत हैं और ये सभी विभिन्न प्रकार के कर्मों से उत्पन्न हैं। इन्हें इस रूप में जानने पर तुम मुक्त हो जाओगे. So it's saying like all of these actions which are undertaken as a sort of a surrender and sacrifice to the larger yajna are something which are explained in the Vedas also or considered in Upanishads. And he says, इन्हें इस रूप में जानने पर तुम मुक्त हो जाओगे, which means he says that once you know these actions like a surrender or sacrifice to the divine, then that liberates you. So, what's important is not just to undertake these measures, not just to follow these paths, but also knowing that these actions are in service to or in surrender to the larger will of the divine. And then that helps us get liberated. श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयात् यज्ञात् ज्ञान यज्ञः परन्तपः सर्वं कर्म अखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते. हे परम तप, द्रव्य यज्ञ से ज्ञान यज्ञ श्रेष्ठ है. हे पार्थ, अंततो गत्वा सारे कर्म यज्ञों का अवसान दिव्य ज्ञान में ही होता है. So he says two things. So he uses a word called dravya yajna, which means so dravya is basically stuff or elements. So it's like surrendering of your wealth or some food or some stuff, which is dravya or padarth or elements. So surrendering of elements is one thing, and then there is a gyan yajna, which means surrendering your actions and efforts towards the wisdom. That is always higher than or shreshta is better than surrendering of the wealth or elements. Despite that, he says, at the end, all the karma yajnas or all the actions which are aligned to the divine service or divine will actually lead to this divine wisdom. However, he sort of distinguished like which path is considered to be more noble path than just the elemental sacrifice.
Woman, I've always gotten confused that what is my karam? I think I've asked you this question earlier also. So I want to surrender to the will of the universe. I want to attain the liberation. I have seen the joy that I experience when I'm completely in surrender. I want to be there constantly. But how will I know this is the karam the universe is expecting? Is it the same thing that if I'm developing a will or a feeling to do something, that means this is also the call of the universe. That's why it's come to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes that path is so tough that I sometimes get confused, maybe morally or otherwise, that no, I cannot do this. I can't do this. And then I take another direction. And then I start doing karam on that path. That also begins to feel like the will of the universe.
See, one thing is if we follow our life knowing that everything that happens or everything that we do is actually a divine will, is a will of God. I think the only thing that we need to be mindful of is, or something, how we can check ourselves is because it can eventually become a very a fallacy as well, because I am not really putting in my effort, or because I'm not really doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm just using this will of God or a divine will um, as an escape, because I don't want to challenge myself, or I don't want to really push myself. So yeah, so to I think the answer again lies in the same thing, is to be really conscious and to be really asking ourselves that uh, why am I not wanting to do something? Is it because it seems difficult or tough? What does it really arise in me? If there is a presence of some minute level of emotions or some feelings of fear, or any other kind of feelings which either are sort of attracting me towards it or detaching me away from it completely, in that moment we know that despite the divine will or something, there is an element of self control or self perception which is playing in the moment, and that will tell us that okay, no, so I'm not completely in that state of neutrality right now, and so don't make a decision. Somewhere our elders also used to say, like, never make a decision or a choice when you are emotionally heightened, either when you are really very happy or excited, or when you're really sad and upset or frustrated. And I think the reason there was that, like, in those states, the decision is always influenced more by our sense of ego or a sense of self than really what needs to happen in that state.
That is very true, even according to brain science, right? They say when your amygdala is hijacked, don't take a decision. Let the prefrontal cortex come into place.
Yeah, but this is even deeper because, and I think it really demands for us to be very, very self reflective and absolutely transparent and honest with self, to say and to catch ourselves in the moment and say that, actually, no, you're just trying to find divine will as an escape route so that you don't have to do it because it's feeling like difficult, or um, because something else is feeling more attractive in the moment.
More attractive, or it's too tough, like you're not brave enough, you don't have the courage enough. And so once you have reflected, accepted, and taken a path which is safer, I'm saying that becomes your karam eventually, right?
Yeah.
And when that becomes your karam, what we fear may become a fallacy. I ultimately hold on to that to find my peace. Otherwise, I'm not going to find my peace. Key. I did not have the courage to follow that path. What not? What now? So I'm saying the moment I take a diversion, and start doing karam on that path, and that begins to feel it's the will of the universe, would that still be my karam? Or would it actually be running away from my karam? And what is so wrong about that when you haven't had enough courage?
See, even acknowledging this, to my understanding, because this is not something, this is not a linear path where every time that when you have courage and then you'll take the right decisions, there's nothing right or wrong. But even to say that, okay, so maybe right now I'm not having this courage and I need to go away and, do something else. I think being that transparent with self is also a sort of a blessing. I think that is also good. It's just probably indicates that you need to have a little more belief in self or a little more understanding, because a very clear understanding of this is my path would put you in a state of mind where you would say to yourself that, you know what, yes, it seems difficult, but if this wouldn't be my path, if I wouldn't have this capability to go on this path and journey, then this wouldn't even come my way, then I would not be at this space, which means probably I do not see myself capable, but the divine will knows that I'm capable and then I have to go on this path. That is also a possibility.
Yeah.
Another possibility is that your ego, your sense of self deliberately brings you um, to some place which is actually not meant for you. You do not need to strive that hard, but then you deliberately choose something difficult because somewhere deep down the sense of self wants to prove itself. But we say that, oh, this is divine will. And so I think the only measure lies within us. The only measure is being true to the self and being that self-respect reflective, that you can ask yourself this hard question like, who is really saying that this is my path?
There's a third permutation combination also.
Mm-hmm.
A path I wanted to walk and I did not have the courage
Mm.
made me really, really unhappy with myself. I decided on a one fine day, which obviously doesn't happen one fine day, but after a lot of deliberation, that right now I don't have the courage to walk this path.
Mm.
So leave it here. What can you do otherwise to strengthen the muscles to walk on this path? So I
I
I
Yeah.
I cut down to the finite, immediate stuff, and I started working towards it without any attachment that it may lead me to that path. Just knowing that I can just look at this much of the road, possible for me to walk this much of the road. Beyond that looks very dark, scary, and dangerous. I don't know if I'll be able to walk there, but let me walk this much and as much as I can walk on this path.
Which is good, because then that brings you to the point that courage is in the process. You get courage in the process of doing it, instead of thinking that when I will have courage I'll go on that path.
I mean,
Yeah, just being on the path will get you more opportunities to exercise the capacity of courage.
yeah,
Yeah.
at least one should not stop the karam. Karam, akaram, sakaram, whatever it'll turn out to be,
Yeah.
keep showing up. Only then the universe will also look at you.
Yeah.
Open your arms, only then it will hold your hands.
Yeah. Like, I would say then in that case, instead of vikarma, like moving away from karma, sakam karma is better than that. But nishkam karma is even better than sakam karma. So by all means, do your action. Till the time we cannot bring ourselves to be uh, non-detached, to be detached from the outcomes, maybe stay attached in outcomes, but at least do your rightful action.
Yeah.
And that is where I think a lot of values even lies in the enterprises and businesses and all of that, because they are generating a lot, creating a lot of opportunities for a whole lot of other people. The rajas gun, yeah. Although attached to outcome, but still there is an action, which is always better than not taking action.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's very easy to sit at a distance and judge that they are attached to outcomes. We don't know what's going on up there. We may just look at the results and they say they are attached to the outcome, but maybe they're actually operating out of a very different mind space.
Exactly.
Although it does begin to get talked about in the media. For example, Ratan Tata is hugely talked about his mindset, the way he approached his businesses. But there may be many whose mindset is not being talked about, but it may different be very, very different. And yeah, I've also over a period of time begun to respect people who are generating opportunities rather than just the dreamers and poetry lovers like me. I don't think I used to give them so much of regard the way I do to them today.
Mm. I think the secret lies in being the observer and seeing how what action is breeding what kind of outcome, or what state the person gets in, and just use everything as a reflective learning understandings. Yeah.
Plus, being constantly aware and mindful that who am I to judge when the whole universe has a plan? Who am I to sit there and judge that which karma is good and which is not? And this is an attachment and this is not.
Yeah. And it happens. It happens so naturally. We are like it really takes a lot of I think practice and a very, very strong understanding to not judge anybody. I remember some of my very close friends who otherwise I would say that, oh, I love them and I accept them fully, but I found myself being really harsh judge of their actions at some point of time. That too emerged out of a state of love. Like one of my friend who was going through a very, very difficult time in her marriage, and I knew that she is so capable that she really doesn't need to bear whatever she was bearing in that marriage. And I was like, we are with you and you are so damn capable. Why don't you just take effort? Why are you bearing all of that, what is happening with you? And I didn't say it to her, but I would always feel like, oh my God, she's so capable. She will do good for herself. Why can't she just leave that toxic relationship and move out of it? And for a long time, I had that feeling. But eventually, one day, when I tried to look at it from her perspective, I felt, it's not that easy. And if she isn't doing it, there must be a reason. Either despite all of her capabilities and all of her strengths, she can still be afraid and scared for a change. And I'm nobody to judge her. As a friend, I should just be by her side, because even me trying to tell her more and more, like, oh, take some action or do something with you about yourself, was a lot of expectation that I was putting on her. And I felt like probably that is not what she needs from me. Probably all she needs from me is to offer her a safe and pleasurable space where she can come and unwind and, feel good. Because there is an internal process which is happening and going on within her. And eventually, someday, she will have that inner strength and courage to do better for herself. And the day I had that understanding, I stopped to judge. And that day, I actually realized that how much of a judgment I was placing on her, which till that day I didn't realize. I felt like I'm concerned for her. And that's what we do. Just because I love you, or just because I'm concerned for you, I'm saying this. And in just saying that, sometimes we diminish the other person um, quite a lot, and don't even realize that that's what we are doing. So
Thank you for sharing that, Komal. I think we do that a lot of times in so many relationships. You're right. Um, when we're carrying that, baggage of judgment, we don't realize its weight till we drop it.
till we drop
Then
it,
we realize the
I'm out of,
space that gets built in the relationship,
yeah,
the airiness, that's when you realize it.
yeah,
All right, then. This
yep,
was wonderful again.
yeah. A lot of reminder just to stay in self-reflection. And yeah, I think the way things are repeated in Bhagavad Gita, in these chapters, and over, the way in different ways and forms, Krishna is saying the same thing. I think it's good, because as humans, our nature is to know it in a one aspect, but still forget and not see it in a different perspective. So I think looking at it from different facets and in different words and in different aspects is something which eventually brings the change, strengthens our understanding. So, with that, let's close our today's conversation. We'll meet next week again. Thank
Hopefully.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Mami.
Bye.
Bye.